The first thing I heard was not my own voice, not a gunshot, not even someone yelling. It was that ugly little sound of fabric giving up my yellow silk blouse, tearing from the middle of my chest all the way down, while a cop grinned like he'd just proved a point. And for a split second, the whole booking room went quiet. Even the old fluorescent lights seemed to buzz softer. He had both fists twisted in the front of my shirt, breathing hard, eyes bright, and he leaned in close enough that I could smell stale coffee and mint gum, and said real low, "You really thought that pretty face was going to get you a pass in here, sweetheart?" I didn't cover myself. I didn't cry. I didn't look down. I just looked him dead in the eye and said as calmly as I could, "You just made the biggest mistake of your career." Because here's what he didn't know, what nobody at Ridgefield 7th Street Station knew in that moment, and you can decide how satisfying this feels later. The woman he had just assaulted in the middle of his booking room was not some random black woman with an attitude that he could scare into silence. I was a senior civil rights investigator for the Department of Justice. I was wired from the second I walked through those glass doors, and every shove, every insult, every rip of that shirt was already on its way to a secure DOJ server downtown live. My name is Naomi Carter, in case you're wondering who's talking to you. And, yeah, this actually happened. This isn't an episode of some TV show. This is one long, stupid, painful, very real day of my life that turned an entire police station upside down. I grew up, as the kid teachers said, talks back on every report card. The black girl security followed around the store while my mom was paying at the register, the one who got pulled over for rolling a stop when everybody else just rolled right through. You know what I mean? So that tone some officers get, that you exist on probation tone, it's not new to me. It's like a soundtrack that's just been playing under my life since middle school. Somewhere along the way, I decided I wasn't just going to live around, that I was going to walk straight toward it, pull the cover off, and see what was hiding underneath. That's how I ended up spending my 30s walking into departments like 7th Street Station with a fake story, a hidden mic, and a very real badge nobody gets to see until it's too late. 7th had been on our radar for a while. Too many resisting arrest charges that magically appeared the second someone complained. Too many people of color roughed up on traffic stops. Too many internal complaints closed in under 48 hours with no witnesses. Interviewed statistically, it was screaming at us, but numbers don't move. People write, stories do, video does. So that's where I came in. The plan that morning was simple on paper, which is always a bad sign. I was supposed to walk in looking like exactly the kind of woman their worst officer already resented, file a very normal witness statement, and see how many rules they were willing to break just to feel big. No government suit, no stiff blouse from the DOJ closet. I wore this bright yellow silk top that fit just right, cream pants, gold cuffs on my braids, catching the light. I looked like I belonged in an art gallery, not in a precinct lobby, and that was the point. I pushed through those heavy glass doors, felt the AC and stale coffee hit me in the face, walked up to the bulletproof window at the front desk, and there he was. Officer Kyle Mercer slumped in his chair with his stomach pushing against his belt, scrolling his phone with that bored thumb eyes sliding over me now and then, never actually looking at my face, just kind of doing this slow up and down like he was scrolling me too. I let him ignore me for a couple minutes. I wanted to see how far he'd take it. Then he finally sighed like I'd ruined his whole day and locked his phone. "You lost or something?" he asked through the speaker, not even hiding the attitude. "Can I help you?" in that tone that says, "I really, really don't want to." I smiled like I hadn't heard the disrespect at all and said, "I'm here to file a witness statement. I saw a hit and run over on Maple and 10th about an hour ago. Dispatch told me to come in and ask for witness form 14C so it goes into the felony file." His partner behind him, younger Asian guy Officer Park, flicked his eyes up at that. He knew exactly what form I was talking about, which made Mercer's jaw clench just a little, because even if he didn't know the number, he knew I knew something I wasn't supposed to know. "We got forms right here," he grunted, grabbed a random clipboard, shoved it through the slot so hard it clanged, "Press hard." 3 copies were busy. There was one drunk guy snoring in the corner, and that was it, but sure, they were busy. I skimmed the form, generic incident report, not the felony witness form. And yeah, I could have just filled it out, gone home, and written a memo about how rude he was. But that wasn't my job that day. "I think there might be a mistake," I said, still real calm. "That's an incident card for a felony hit-and-run policy. Says witness 14C, so the DA can attach it directly to the case file section 8.3. 2. Right? I dropped the section number on purpose. You ever watch a man who hates reading realize you might have actually read the book? That's what his face did. Park suddenly found his keyboard very interesting, which told me everything I needed. He knew I wasn't wrong. Mercer leaned closer to the glass, eyes hardening. "Lady, I've been doing this 15 years, he said. "I think I know what damn form you need, just fill out the paper." Now, I could have stepped back there, but I've spent my whole life being told to shut up by people who are wrong, and that day I was working. "Quick question then," I said, tilting my head like I was honestly curious in those 15 years. "Have the felony witness procedures changed, or do you still attach the sworn affidavit to the primary file so it doesn't get misplaced later?" You could feel his temperature go up through the glass, not because I was wrong, but because now his rookie knew he might be, and certain men would rather burn a room down than look dumb in public. "You got a law degree you hiding from me," he snapped, "or you just like the sound of your own voice." I set the clipboard back down, slid it gently toward him, and said, the 4 words I knew were about to light the fuse. "I'll just need your badge number and your supervisor's name so I can put in my report that I was given the wrong form." If you've ever seen that shift in an officer's eyes when you say badge number, you know what I'm talking about, that split second where curiosity flips into threat assessment. He stared at me like I'd just spit on the flag. He slammed his chair back, hit the buzzer, came out from behind the glass, and the moment that heavy door clicked behind him, the energy in that lobby changed. Even the drunk in the corner stopped snoring. He walked straight into my space, close enough that I could see the little red veins in his cheeks, and said, "You think you can come into my station and threaten me?" "No," I said. "The Constitution does that. Your badge just comes with it." "Yeah." I poked him a little. "I'll own that." His hand clamped around my upper arm so fast I barely saw it move, fingers digging in hard. "You're done," he growled. "You want my attention. You got it. You're under investigative detention for disorderly conduct." I raised my voice just a bit, made sure the lobby camera and my hidden mic caught every syllable. "Officer, I'm not resisting. I'm not a threat. I'm just asking for the correct paperwork." Then he yanked me toward the secure door like he was dragging luggage. The hallway behind that door was all cinder block, and bad paint smelled like bleach and sweat. Doors to interrogation on one side, evidence on the other. He shoved me past all of it into the booking room, that little concrete stage where they turn people into numbers, and dropped my arm like I'd offended him by existing. "Empty your pockets. Everything on the counter," he ordered, pointing to the metal surface. "Phone keys, jewelry. Let's go." I stayed planted where I was. "I'm not under arrest," I said, steady. "You don't have probable cause, you don't have consent, and you can't search me just because you're mad. I know what form I'm supposed to fill out." His face twisted when I said mad, like I'd called him weak. "I am the probable cause," he snapped, stepping in close, jabbing a finger toward my chest. "You came in here loud, disrespectful, trying to tell me how to do my job. That's disorderly conduct in my book. That's not how the statute is written." I answered soft, almost conversational, and that was the moment he chose violence. His hands shot out, grabbed 2 fistfuls of my yellow blouse knuckles pressing into my collarbones, and he hissed, "You really think you're better than me, don't you, walking in here with your fancy shirt and your big words like you're untouchable?" "Let go of me," I said, not begging, not yelling, just giving him one last chance to remember there were cameras in the ceiling and a mic inches from his mouth. He pulled. That ripping sound, I swear you never forget it, the way silk tears. It's like the sound your stomach makes when you see blue lights in your rearview mirror. Half fear, half rage. My shirt opened up from my throat, down buttons exploded across the floor, tink, tink, tink on the lino, and for half a second the world just stopped. Every woman watching this knows that cold, naked feeling. Even if you're still technically covered, it gets under your skin. You feel all the eyes that have ever lingered too long, all the warnings you've ever gotten about being careful around men with power. And for one long breath, I had to decide if I was going to fold in on myself and give him the victory he wanted, or stand there in that busted shirt and make him face what he'd just done. I chose the second one. I did not cross my arms, I did not look away. I let him stare, and then I smiled just a little. "Kyle," I said, using his first name like we were in court. "Every action has a consequence, you just recorded yours in HD. That's when the door opened and Sergeant Randall Bishop walked in, coffee in one hand, bored look on his face, the man who's supposed to be the adult in the room. He stopped when he saw my ripped blouse, the buttons everywhere, Mercer breathing like he'd run a sprint, and you could see the calculation flash across his eyes. Not, "What happened?" Not, "Are you okay?" But, "How much trouble is this going to cause me?" "What the hell is going on?" he asked, tone already annoyed. Mercer jumped like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar and immediately started lying. It rolled off his tongue like he'd practiced at Sarge. She came in screaming, pounding on the glass, threatening IA, tearing at her clothes. I brought her back here to calm her down, and she just went nuts, started ripping her shirt, scratching at me, full hysterical meltdown. He pointed at me like I'd done all of it to myself. Bishop looked at him, looked at me, looked at the clean rip down my blouse, no pulled hair, no scratches on Mercer's face, just a woman standing still and furious, and I swear for a second he knew exactly what the truth was. Then he put his coffee down and chose the lie anyway. Great. He muttered another hysterical one, then slid into his official voice, "Ma'am, because of your disruptive behavior, you're being processed for disorderly conduct and resisting detention. We'll take your shirt as evidence of your outburst. Officer Mercer, get a property bag and a female officer. We're doing this by the book." By the book. That one always kills me. They stripped me of what was left of that blouse, handed me a thin gray paper jumpsuit that felt like wearing a trash bag, fingerprinted me, took my mugshot under Jane Doe because I refused to give them a name they could twist on a report later, and marched me down to a holding cell that smelled like old sweat and bleach that never quite did its job. When the bars slammed shut, I checked my watch. I was 15 minutes past my scheduled check-in with my team, and in my world, 15 minutes doesn't mean, "Oops, I'm late." It means a little light goes from green to yellow on a wall downtown. Somebody leans forward and says, "Where's Naomi?" I sat on that cold metal bench, straightened my back, and did a mental inventory. Mic, battery still good. Booking room camera had a clean angle on everything we had. Unlawful detention, assault under color of law, conspiracy. Forming in real time, my job now was to keep breathing into that microphone and not let their fear turn into something even worse. About half an hour later, Bishop showed up outside my cell with a clipboard leaning on the bars like he was here to offer me a deal in a used car lot. "So here's the thing," he said, sliding the paper through. "This is a waiver. It says you were confused, upset, maybe had a little episode. Any physical contact was incidental while we were trying to help you sign it. We dropped the disorderly. You walk out of here, no record, no media, no fuss, clean slate. Everybody goes home." I didn't even pick the pen up. I just looked him in the eye. "Let me see if I've got this right," I said, slow, so the mic could enjoy it. "Your officer assaults me in the booking room, rips my clothes. You illegally detain me, and now you want me to sign a false statement to cover your backs. In exchange, you'll stop pretending you had a legal reason to lock me up in the first place. That about it?" "Sergeant." His jaw clenched. "It's a chance to go home," he said. "You do not want to pick a fight with this department over one bad afternoon." I stepped up to the bars close enough that he had to decide whether to step back, and I didn't blink. "What you are doing right now," I said, "is witness tampering, coercion, and obstruction, all on tape, all federal, and I guarantee you the people I work with know exactly where I am." That was the first time the mask slipped. His eyes flickered. "Who are you?" he asked, not with swagger, just this quiet panic. I gave him the same little smile I'd given Mercer. "I'm the person who's going to make sure none of this gets buried," I said. "And as of right now, I'm exercising my right to remain silent. You probably should too." I turned around, sat back down, and left him standing there holding his useless clipboard. While he was still trying to decide if I was crazy or dangerous up front at the desk, Officer Lily Torres was staring at her monitor, feeling like her stomach had dropped into her shoes. She'd seen Mercer drag me away, heard the rip, heard the lie, and she did what a lot of good people don't do. She didn't let it go. She typed Naomi Carter into the interagency system, not the local one, the big one with all the warnings on it, hit enter, and her whole screen went black. Then the DOJ seal popped up with a red banner that basically said, "Unauthorized access level 5 clearance terminal logged, federal trace active." Her hands flew off the keyboard like it had burned her. A minute later, every phone in that building started ringing all at once, landlines, dispatch, admin, even the dusty fax line in the back. Every screen in the station flickered to a satellite map with one pulsing dot over their roof and the words, "DOJ asset in distress. Protocol blacklight active. You are unlawfully detaining a federal inspector. Release immediately." Imagine you're a cop standing there with a donut and suddenly the universe puts your whole station on blast on a 60-inch screen, you know what I mean? Somebody yelled for Bishop. He came out of the back looking like he'd seen a ghost read that message, and the first words out of his mouth were, "Get her out." But instead of walking straight to my cell, he grabbed Mercer and dragged him into the server closet, ordered him to wipe the last few hours of video crash the system, blame a surge, all of that. Mercer sat down, pulled up the storage hit format on the partition labeled booking cams, and that was their last desperate move. trying to erase what they'd done to me. They didn't know my team was already in their system, watching every keystroke. They locked him out, mirrored the footage to an off-site server, and left a little message on the screen, just long enough for him to read secure copy complete, local controls disabled. He yanked the power cables out of the wall anyway. That's when the walls started shaking low at first like far-off thunder, then louder, that deep thumping in your chest when helicopters fly low. There were two of them right over the parking lot windows, rattling ceiling tiles, humming. While everybody was running to the front to see what was happening, an armored SUV with U.S. Marshals on the side came straight through the front doors, glass exploding inward, and men in black tactical gear poured out rifles, up voices booming, "FBI, show me your hands now." The same guys who'd been barking "stop resisting" at drunk teenagers for years suddenly had their hands in the air, fingers spread, eyes wide. Yeah, that happened. Agent Daniel Ross climbed out behind them in a suit that cost more than Mercer's car, scanned the room, and said in this calm, dangerous voice, "Where is Inspector Naomi Carter?" By the time he said my name, I was already on my way up from the cells wearing a black tack shirt and pants, DOJ jacket zipped up, escorted by two agents who had come in through the back with keys and a mission. I walked into that shattered lobby and saw all of them at once, Mercer with his face drained of color, Bishop looking like he was going to throw up, Lily off to the side with her hands still half raised, and for a second I just stood there and let them see me as I actually was. Ross met me halfway. "Inspector Carter," he said quietly. "You harmed, bruised, and pissed off," I said. "But I'm operational. Your subjects have gifted us with assault, unlawful detention, witness tampering, and a whole lot of pattern we're going to find when we open their files." He turned without another word, nodded at the marshals, and they stepped in on either side of Mercer and Bishop. "Sergeant Bishop, Officer Mercer," he announced, voice for the whole room. "Now you are under arrest for deprivation of rights under color of law, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and attempted destruction of evidence. You have the right to remain silent." One of the marshals started cuffing Mercer, and Mercer actually said, "You can't arrest us, we're the police," and the marshal just shook his head and said, "You were the police today, you're the defendants." Months later, after the town hall where we laid out exactly how many complaints they'd buried after the consent decree came down and every arrest they'd made for the last 5 years got pulled apart line by line, we sat in a federal courtroom and listened to a jury say guilty over and over again. Judge Caroline Hale looked at Mercer and said, "You weren't an officer who made a mistake. You were a bully who thought a badge made you safe, then gave him 7 years. She looked at Bishop and said, "You were supposed to be the wall that stopped him instead. You were the door that let him through." Then handed him 10, no state time, no parole games, just real federal years to sit with the echo of that ripping sound. When the marshals led them away, Mercer turned, once met my eyes and mouthed, "I'm sorry," and I gave him one small nod, not because I forgave him, but because I wanted him to know I'd heard it, and that accountability was still happening anyway. A year later, I stood on the roof of City Hall with Detective Lily Torres, the rookie who ran my name when she knew she'd get in trouble for it. We looked out over Ridgefield. The complaint numbers were down. The new commander at 7th walked the beat instead of hiding in his office. Lily's badge said detective. "Now," and she said, "It feels too quiet some nights," and I told her, "Quiet is good. Quiet means people aren't scared of you anymore." That yellow blouse is still sitting in an evidence bag, tagged and numbered somewhere in a DOJ locker. Some people would say it's just ruined fabric to me. It's the moment a man thought tearing my clothes would break me, and ended up tearing the roof off his own house instead. Now I'm curious what you think, really hearing all of this. Do you feel like 7 years for Mercer and 10 for Bishop was enough, or would you have gone higher if you were the judge? Have you ever watched someone in uniform abuse their power and wondered if saying something would even matter? Or have you been that person who spoke up like Lily did and changed the whole story? Drop your thoughts in the comments, argue with each other. Tell me your own stories about cops, about bosses, about anyone who thought they were untouchable. And if you think badges should never be shields for bullies, hit like, share this with somebody who needs to hear it, and subscribe so we can keep dragging this stuff into the light where everyone can see it.